So today's podcast, I am sitting with everyone's favorite rich auntie from Instagram who will throw it down on the floor. On Sunday, you were twerking.
Yes.
Am I right?
I twerk more than that, but for the gram, we show you just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Where does the love of dancing come from?
Well, I think I'm one of those people who are just born with rhythm.
Okay.
I don't like the notion that mothers or successful women or, you sit on boards, therefore you must be stiff. Therefore you must carry this image of, I'm just like, no.
Get over it. I know, but I think that's what you've brought to Instagram. And we had a conversation. You said you weren't into the social media until you got into partnership with Verve. And they wanted you to be on, which is the best decision they've made for all of us. Because I think you continue to brighten up the TL. And so many people always write that it's amazing how, like what you say, you can be successful, be a mother, be a wife, do this, do that, and still be fun, still be you, still rock your shorts, everything.
No, and I really think that we must continuously challenge these societal norms that say, because you're a woman, therefore
exactly.
You can't. And I also want to show my children. I mean, most of my videos are taken by my children. So they've got front row seats to the fact that you can actually be hot in the not in the bedroom, in the boardroom.
Well, the bedroom's okay too.
You can be hot in the boardroom and still be a fun-loving person and still be a nurturing mom and still be like, out there living your life. And getting on social media for me, yes, whilst it was triggered by my first time when I won a Verve Clicker Businesswoman of the Year award, and that was 2017. So, obviously,
I love how you say that casually, like everyone's just going to get an award and it's normal.
Now, this particular one is definitely not normal. But when I won that, the aim of the platform is to showcase what you do, the work that you do. And the award is about, recognizing women who are not just succeeding in running their own businesses and, in fact, corporate jobs. It's got two categories. But also to recognize women who are also changing their society, who are changing their ecosystem. I know I always challenge this notion of lift as you rise, but they award women who are making a difference in other people's lives, particularly women's lives. And I'm saying I challenge this notion of lift as you rise because I think, and I've done a thing about this on social media that got some people's tails up, and I'm like, great.
That's what we like.
It's a good thing to start talking about these things because I'm a big believer that, I can't lift anyone if I haven't lifted myself up.
Absolutely.
And I think, in our we do tend to just run with a trend or with a word or with a phrase or with a saying because we think it sounds nice and it's relevant. But the truth is that when you start to interrogate, what does that actually mean?
Yeah.
And I'm yet to come across anyone who says that to a man.
Sure.
It's largely reserved for women. And I think that the challenge with that is, unfortunately, society then interprets it to be, it doesn't matter whether you are drowning or not. Please make sure that you are lifting other people up.
Absolutely.
And there's nothing wrong with lifting people up, but you must be in a position to do so.
Exactly.
So I talk about points of elevation.
Yeah.
So if I'm already at a point where I feel like, I've got the strength to help somebody else, then I do it. Perhaps for some people, that's what they call lift as you rise. But I just think the connotation that comes with lift as you rise, it sounds so heavy when I'm trying to climb and then I've got all these other people that I must lift.
It's actually interesting that you speak about it. My first video, my first podcast I put out last week was about vulnerability. I was talking about vulnerability and also never pouring from an empty space. And that's exactly what you're saying is that, yes, we want to lift other women up, but why is it that when it comes to us women, it's like, oh, why aren't you helping this one? Why aren't you mentoring this one? But it's you. As women, you're the first generation who gets to sit on a board as a black woman. You're still navigating that before you can take on other people, still figuring out systems before you can take on other people.
And my point, and that's a great example, and I always make that example. I say, you know what? I cannot open a board seat at a board that I'm not at.
Sure.
So that's my point of elevation. So I got to the board and I realized, okay, listen, we need to change this.
Yeah.
Then I opened that seat. But also, I'm not just opening a seat for someone because I'm a woman and they're a woman. No, I must open a seat for somebody who is deserving of that. Of course, I want it to be a woman.
Absolutely.
Deliberately so.
Yeah.
But, the expectation that, you must open doors that you're not even inside. It's what leads to burnout, because a lot of and burnout is highest amongst women because we feel like what we are doing is never enough. And we're constantly burning ourselves and pouring from an empty well.
Trying to save everyone
when we haven't even been able to save ourselves. Now, I know this is an incredibly controversial thing amongst women because it's like, what do you mean? You have to lift as you rise. No, I agree with the concept.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, the expectation that women, even when they are struggling, even when they're emotionally not ready to lift another, is too much of an expectation. It's too much of a burden. I think you're freeing
so many people. I think you saying that is so freeing because, like I said, there really is an expectation, especially if you're the one who makes it out in the family. Why aren't you hiring cousins, Mamang? Why aren't you doing... You're very big on mentorship.
Yes.
And I don't know how you do it because your plate is really full. But what is, and I know you touched on it on your YouTube channel where you mentor young people, but what does a successful mentorship relationship look like? Because I had a mentor and a physical mentor.
Yes.
And I stopped believing in mentorship because I felt like I had to be like her. I felt like I wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And that's when I shifted to more virtual mentorship where I have my Oprahs, my TD Jakes, people from far who became my mentors.
Yeah.
So how does effective mentorship look like to you? I think maybe you can phase it from a mentee's side.
Yeah. So I actually, rightfully so, you've said it. I spent a lot of time on this particular topic because I do think that there's a notion in society that says I can't lead a successful life until I have a mentor. And what I'm always trying to unlock is to say you actually don't need a mentor to live your life.
Yeah.
So you gotta live your life.
It's a bonus, yeah.
It's wonderful to have somebody you can bounce ideas off, but I think people do tend to be over-reliant on mentors because they think they're gonna tell them the answers. They think they're gonna give them the answers. A mentor is just to guide you and in fact, an effective mentor is somebody who has walked the same path and they can share their experiences with you and say, listen, this is how I did it. And they can test your own thinking. They don't give you solutions. You must still come up with the solutions.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really irks me is people who take up your time wanting to be mentored but never want to do the work. So they want you to do the work.
Yeah.
So an effective mentor is somebody who guides you. But as a mentee, it is 100% your responsibility to make sure that that mentorship relationship succeeds, to make sure that you get what you wanted out of them. These people are typically people who are successful, have a lot on their plate, so they don't have time.
Yeah.
Them giving you an hour or two of their time is a gift to you.
Absolutely.
And typically these are people who charge. I charge for my time. I mean, I think about if I'm going to give somebody my 1 hour, I would have charged an X amount for speaking, which is a lot of money.
So use it wisely.
Use it wisely. Yeah. So, and I think that's very important. And as a mentee, you must be very clear about what you're trying to achieve. And understand that because, and I've said this before, if you just want to be friends with me, just say it. Don't say you want me to mentor you, because then it's annoying when you start being all friendly.
Yeah, just say you want to be friends.
Yeah, because that relationship between a mentor and a mentee is not meant to be friends. It's not meant to be comfortable. It's not meant to be, it's meant to be testing.
Challenging.
Right? Yeah. Challenging. It's
getting
meant
the best out of you.
Absolutely. Because then otherwise you're just wasting time, you know?
Sure.
So I think the mentees have to be very honest about what it is that they're trying to achieve. And because somebody's good at their job doesn't mean they'll be a great mentor.
Yeah.
So you want somebody who has walked a path that you are walking.
Yeah.
But also to show commitment, you must come to the table with solutions.
Love
and
that.
say, listen, I've already tried this, but I'm stuck here. And mentors really appreciate that because they're saying, okay, you're already pulling yourself up. And that concept of lifting, again, for me, I want to meet people where they are, where they've pulled themselves up and they say, listen, I really
This
just
is as
need...
far as I can get.
This is as far as I can go. Can you just lend me an ear? Or you know what? I have these questions. And my question is always, what have you done about the challenge you're facing? And what would you like to achieve from me? So what do you want from me?
I think that's the most important thing. You keep emphasizing what would you like to achieve, having that clear and set goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's not about us hanging out, drinking champagne. No, I can do that in my own corner at home.
Let's get to the point.
Get to the point. What do you want? And how can I help you?
I shared with you, I read your book in one night.
Yes.
I read it in the bath and I read it in bed. And it found me in a place where I needed a hug. And that's exactly what your book did for me.
Aww.
So I want to ask, when you wrote the book, what was your intention? What were you hoping to achieve?
So when I wrote Baked in Pain, in fact, I started writing Baked in Pain some 10 years before I published it.
Really? Did you know you were writing that, or were you just journaling your thoughts?
Now, I was intent about documenting my history.
Okay.
And I think that was the intent right up front, was document my history. I think as I grew in my journey and as I started to experience, a bit more of the sunny skies, the more there's dark clouds started to, just drift away. The more I worked towards a certain thing, the more I started saying to myself, there are so many people who have come from my circumstances, who have suffered severe abuse, who have suffered atrocities in the hands of people who were supposed to care for them, in the hands of their own mothers, their own fathers, you name it, who have unfortunately not been able to rise above that, who have let those circumstances hold them back, who live in the past and never fully realize their potential because they are so trapped in that pain. And for me, it was a matter of, I'm going to have to tell my story one way or the other.
Yeah.
And when I started writing, nothing was coming because I was still going
in the dark
through
space.
it.
Yeah, you weren't ready.
I wasn't ready.
Still bleeding.
So I think in 10 years, I must have written like 3 pages, a couple of paragraphs, and then I'd try and it just wasn't coming. But when I eventually sat down in 2016 and started, in fact, 2017, I was already like in full-on writing mode. And I published in 2018 because the story was, I was comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I was comfortable that, it's authentic.
Yeah.
And I have to find a synonym for authentic. I need to find my dictionary, but because it's so overly used. But the truth of the matter is that it was honest. Because if I was going to be trying or at least remotely thinking I want to help another person who's in a dark place, the last thing I wanted to do was to tell a story that was not my story.
Yeah.
But also, I had to. I was a mom now. I had a husband, and also when you're gonna put things like that out there,
you have to think about all the other people that are involved because it's not just you now. It's not just your story. Yeah.
But I was very clear that God called me for a certain purpose, and I was going to tell my story, and I was willing to lose it all.
You write in your book that that's the only thing you held on to, God.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine holding on to God being beaten while being beaten for going to church, and you're young. You don't have the knowledge, the understanding. Do you feel like you were chosen, or like God specifically said, I want Amanda to go through this so that she can be the story? How did you reconcile? How did you find comfort in God where you were punished for having a relationship with God?
I think it's not something that immediately jumps at you.
Yeah.
So you can't say, I personally can't say, God chose me to go through this pain, therefore. Right?
Okay.
I really believe that I went through what I went through because That's just life.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just dealt a card that's not necessarily your card, but it is then, what do you do about that? And what is that one thing you hold on to? So in a sense, it's probably something I will never be able to answer fully.
Okay.
But what I can tell you is that, by the way, I will never be able to answer it fully because I've constantly wondered about it. I've constantly wondered which came first, the chicken or the egg. So for me, it's about the fact that when I was as young as I was, I found that my spirituality and this belief that God exists was the one thing that I could hold on to. So it's not I came out of the hard times then found God. No. I found
that's
God
all you
in
had.
the middle of the hard time, because that's all I had.
Yeah.
And I find that, faith does drive hope.
Yeah.
And a lot of people and a lot of young people who've gone through what they've gone through, what I've gone through, there's a lot of, I just think if you don't have faith, if you have nothing to hold on to, you either tend to substances, to abuse and numb that pain.
I think God put eternity in us, or a longing for something that as a human being you can never fill. So it's either you go to God to fill the void, or you go to substance or you continuously seek it in other people.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And some people have all of the bad ways of handling that trauma.
Yeah.
I was just incredibly fortunate that I made the decision to go otherwise.
Sure.
I made the decision to not run to substance, to not run to alcohol, to not run to prostitution. Because when you've suffered not just physical or emotional abuse or that psychological breakdown, when you've suffered that sexual abuse where it's your entire sense of worth is determined by somebody else, when you've suffered neglect and abandonment from your very primary. I mean, today is my twins' birthday. They're turning 14 today.
Happy birthday, girls.
So I always say, I don't celebrate. I don't just celebrate that my children, it's my children's birthday. I celebrate that I've been here.
Yeah.
Every single moment of their lives, I've been here.
You chose them. You chose to stay. Yeah.
Right? So I think that, as a child, when the people who could have protected you were not there to protect you, it does build up a sense of it's just me against the world. And I think I grew to lean closer to God, because it's a very lonely place to just as a child be navigating that it's me against the world, and navigating it alone.
Do you ever get angry at God, and respectfully so, like sit down and say, God, I know we've passed it. I know I'm in a better place, but I just don't get it. And how does your personal relationship with God look like? Because I'm part of the reason why I'm so excited or drawn to starting conversations is because I want us to move from seeing God, religion, spirituality as just this thing that happens at church. But I want to get to the core of the relationship where just like you, people don't have to turn to other things but can turn to God, because there's just honesty and there's truth in that.
I have never been angry at God.
Wow.
I have never asked God, why me?
Wow.
I have never questioned, how could you let this happen to me?
Sure.
Let me say why I've never done that. First of all, I've never felt the need for it, because in a way, God, it feels like for me, God was my saving grace.
Okay.
So for me, God saved me from
I guess why you say you can never fully explain because it just doesn't make sense.
No, it doesn't. Right?
Yeah.
And often when I sit and reflect back on my journey, I'm just like, a lot of people will send me messages and write me all these touching letters about what my story has done for them, but their question is always, but how did you do it? And I can tell you all the hows. I can tell you the decisions I've made. I can tell you the things I've done. I can tell you about going to psychologists. I can tell you about seeing priests. I can tell you all about that. But that's not the how.
That's not
the
it.
how is my faith. And
Sure.
and I really believe that God resides inside of me. And my relationship with God is so deep and spiritual. There's no go between. That's why, you speak about church and things like that. I go to church because I just want to go and worship with other people. It's
that's
not my
it.
connection to God.
I love what you said. And that's exactly what Paul says. Don't neglect going and meeting with other people. It's not about going to deepen your relationship there.
No.
That's in our own time. Church is about with other people.
And I mean, if you think about the people, because we are all human beings, and unfortunately, and I to be honest, this was triggered by what happened with me and my own spiritual leader when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I write about that in Baked in Pain. And we put.
I actually want you to share the story.
Yeah. They must still buy the book.
Okay, sorry.
no, but I'm quite happy to. I mean, at that young an age, I had found my role in the church. I had found my spirituality. I was quite active, and I had a spiritual leader, and she was literally my guide. You know, and I was young though, man. I think I must have been like 10. And one day I was sitting at home and I was just in my shorts, believe me, this shorts thing didn't start now.
It's your thing, girl.
It's my thing. And then she came and she was going past our house and, she called me out and I went to her and she looked at me with such disgust. And she's like, a child of God doesn't wear short things like that.
Sure.
And in that moment, I just knew that no, man, there's something not right about that.
The same God.
But how easy is it for spiritual leaders or even people in a position of power to brainwash you to believe what they believe?
Oh my!
Because ultimately, our relationship with God is between us and God, nobody else.
That's why when Jesus said, "I don't leave you alone; I leave you with the Holy Spirit," and when we give our lives over, we say, "I accept the Holy Spirit to come into my life," which means now me and the Holy Spirit get to
we're one.
We're one. We decide what's happening, not other people.
Yeah, and I think that for me started to show me that we put a lot of expectation and belief and responsibility on church leaders.
Wow.
We put them on a pedestal because they must be holy.
Yeah.
They must be like Jesus.
They must
be like
do
this.
that, talk like this.
We must find our own relationship with God.
Yeah.
You are lucky if you've got people on this earth who can help facilitate the strength of your community. But you cannot wait for them to be perfect for you to have a strong relationship with God. So I found mine, and I think in a way I'm incredibly grateful that I found it at such a young age, and it was not diluted by anyone. It was so pure and raw, and it was down to, God, I'm going to have to grow out of this situation, so help me get there.
Sure.
Just as basic as that.
Yeah.
And I think from that point on, I started to realize that, you know what, I have a relationship with God. It has nothing to do with nobody.
That's enough.
That's enough for me. I don't question anything about my life because I think I would be doing a disservice to the journey that God has given me and put me on this earth for, because I haven't only just experienced hardship in my life, I've also experienced amazing success and incredible life. I've got love, I've got family, I've got all of the things I didn't have, I have. So if I'm going to question God on just one aspect of my life, what about the good stuff?
Sure. That is so valid. If I'm going to question God on one aspect of my life, what about the good stuff?
Yep.
You write about the importance of Mother's Day to you, and we just had Mother's Day.
Yes.
How was this Mother's Day? Are you in the moment every time? Does it get old, or do you still cry every Mother's Day? How does Mother's Day look like to you now?
You're going to find this surprising. This Mother's Day, 2021, is the first Mother's Day in my entire life of being a mother that I did not cry.
Wow. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
It's a fantastic thing.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. Before, I used to, and I write about this in Baked in Pain. I say so much in Baked in Pain.
A lot.
A lot. So when I used to run the shower and just get under the shower every Mother's Day and reflect on my role as a mother and juxtaposed against my mother. And, I talk about triggers a lot. I say in my life, I have triggers everywhere. My mother's a trigger.
Yeah.
Me being a mother is a trigger.
Sure.
My children being happy is a trigger.
Oh, my.
My children having a fantastic childhood is a trigger. So I live with triggers, which has meant that I've had to learn how to be comfortable with triggers.
Sure.
Right? How to embrace the triggers.
I can't imagine being triggered by, because as you want your children to be happy.
Yeah,
you love seeing them happy. But also, I wasn't happy.
Own. Yeah, and the trigger in that is, and over the years, it was always, how could she do that to me, as a child, right? And I mean, I talk about how I wasn't raised by my mother and a whole lot of other stuff in Baked in Pain. I look at the mother that I am to my children. I cannot imagine. I cannot reconcile
the two. Yeah.
The two.
Yeah.
But I've also had to learn that, and my mother and I have a complex relationship. I respect my mother. I will never say foul words to my mother. I will never disrespect her in any shape or form. And unfortunately, I also don't react. Which sometimes is something that she's always said to me. She's always like, why don't you just scream at me or something?
Sure.
But I'm like, what is the point of that? What is that going to achieve? And again, it goes back to what I had to hang on to. So for me, my parents were not the people that gave birth to me. My parent was God, because that's the person who got me through. Of course, my ecosystem gave me a roof over my head. I had food, I had clothes, Yeah, and often, the message back from some of those people is how ungrateful I am. They were wiping my buttocks when I was a baby here. I'm like, actually, I think the person who should say thank you is my mother.
Sure.
Because those favors were for her, not me. I was just a child.
Yeah.
I didn't ask to be born.
Sure.
So there's so many layers to traumatic childhoods that, I really, if there's one thing, I hope so. And my work is grounded in the foundation that, it's grounded in the foundation and the hope that each and every single person who's entrusted with looking after a child only wants what's best for them.
Sure.
Should only be giving them that concrete and solid foundation to go and tackle the world, because the world is still going to happen to you as a child.
They just need love.
They just need
foundation
love,
of love.
Nurture.
Yeah.
And then the rest, you leave up to them when they're older. But when they're younger, they don't have a choice. They can't sit there and pick.
I want to jump onto something, which is a common question about boundaries. I get a lot of people saying, how... because I'm very firm on boundaries, but people say, but what if the person who hurts me is my mother? And you speak about, you say clearly that your mother will never go hungry. But I think you've learned as a person, you can elaborate or correct me to say, this is as much as she can give me. This is how, and I love how you ended the book in such a positive note that my mother did the best that she could. Yeah, so
even though that best doesnh look like
best for you. Yeah, so how do boundaries look like, especially when it comes to mother-child, mother-in-law relationship?
Yes. I just think, I say my mother will never go to bed hungry. A lot of my friends say to me, you don't have to do that. You don't have to give her cars. You don't have to give. You don't have to, because she doesn't deserve it. I say, my mother's welfare has nothing to do with whether she deserves it or not.
Sure.
It has everything to do with my covenant with God.
Wow.
I do it because God is watching me.
And that's it, ma'am. Do you have to even elaborate?
that's it for me. And I don't have to say, no, you don't deserve it. You were not there for me. You've done this. You continue to do this. And no.
It's your covenant with God.
I have my only obligation is to God. And if my obligation to God means I have to be kind to my mother, I'm going to do that. But where's the boundary, you ask? Unfortunately, when you've had a traumatic experience like mine, but not just in the abuse, but in the neglect from the mother, which for me, by the way, and I think I say this, I say this in the book, and I say it quite a lot, where my single biggest challenge with my childhood is not so much what people did to me, but it's the fact that they were given the opportunity to do that to me, and which means mother is at the core of the issue, of your issues, yeah. And I think that the boundary has had to be, firstly, you can't go back and change anything. But unfortunately also what it means is, because that trust was shattered as a baby, and you can read this up, a baby and the mother bond, that trust is built from moment they're born. Yeah. It's the most important, I think, in the first 3 months. That breast that your mother gives you, that's how you're building that bond. That's how you build that sense of trust that when I'm hungry, my mother's going to feed me. So those things seem so basic, but they are fundamental to the growth of a child. They are fundamental to the development of a child's identity, sense of identity. Wow. Yeah. Their self-esteem. So when a child's needs are not met, be it physical needs, emotional needs, when your mother abandons you emotionally, because some mothers are physically there, but they're not there, yes, right? Yes. So unfortunately, that trust is not something you can rebuild. Some people are fortunate enough to be able to do it. I haven't been able to, because it's not just because things happened then okay. No, it's because it's unfortunately a continuous cycle of a certain level of abuse. And, I talk about, I must have said this one time on one of our Instagram lives, and I said, I think I need to start a support group for daughters who are abused by their mothers. I genuinely think you should, because it's more common than you think. And, it is. And not abuse Mpoomy. No, but it's just the words. Yeah, and, I think in having empathy or sympathy, because we have a similar situation, and I've experienced a similar situation, not me personally, but I've watched it. Yeah. It's not that the mother doesn't want to, it's just they can't. They don't have the ability. They don't have the ability. But there's also a lot of choice in it. There's that part as well. And I say this, because I've said this too. Every time I get on a public platform and I say something about my story, it's more drama between me and my mom. But what I said to her is, you chose to put yourself in the middle of my story. I'm telling my story. You chose to write your part in it. Yeah. You could have written it otherwise. I would have been telling a different story. Yeah. And I even said to her last year, I said, I really wish I could tell my story without linking it to you. But I can't. Because that's not the story. That's not my story. My story is intrinsic to your story. Sure. And I think one of the things that a friend of mine is always like, no, I need to get you and your mom together. We need to talk. We need to have an intervention. Mothers must. And I'm like, listen, the one boundary I can tell you is that every single day I have to build this emotional, this armor around my emotional state. Because when it comes to mother, the trust factor is triggered. Unfortunately, and just coming back to this conversation where she wants to facilitate things, and I said, you know what? And the question was, have you thought about sending your mother for help? To a psychiatrist, to a psychologist. To deal with her own issues, To deal with her own issues. My point is that you cannot help someone who doesn't even recognize that they need help.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, doesn't even recognize it. Yeah.
Doesn't recognize that they need help. So even the conversation of help is a mute conversation. You can only help somebody who says, I actually need help.
I have a problem. Yeah.
So of course, because, relationships with moms are so sensitive and moms are held to such a pedestal, high degree. And unfortunately, we are in a society that says it's okay for your mother to abuse you, but it's not okay for you as a child to talk about that.
Sure. You know what? You're so right, because unfortunately, I can feel a bit of discomfort in the rawness of your story.
Yeah. Like, when it comes to mother, you want to protect mother.
Yes.
But actually, mother, maybe I shouldn't protect you.
Maybe I should. And
however, that's not going to achieve anything.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
I'm getting so emotional.
People look at your life and they're like, I want to be like Amanda. I'm just like, you
no,
don't
you
want
don't.
it. Believe
no, you
me.
Don't.
Because you just want the success.
Yeah.
You just want the glory part of it. You want the sunny skies. You will not take the dark parts.
I want to go to the tree.
Yes. As we move on from mother.
It's so emotional. This tree, I could say, almost saved you from being bullied.
Yes.
And a whole lot of things. Take yourself back to that tree.
Yeah.
Did you ever imagine we're sitting in your office now, and
yes.
you're sitting behind a beautiful cover of Destiny, which is my absolute favorite magazine. That's where I discovered you. And we're sitting here in this moment, and you're sitting behind your cover in your space where you hire young Black people.
Yes.
And you have a vineyard named after you. Go back to that girl sitting under that tree. I think your feet were hurt because of the pain and the stress.
Yes.
Did you ever think? Could you even think it?
No.
What did you think would happen to you?
I just wanted to grow older.
And do what?
And run away.
To where?
I don't know. Anywhere but there. So my I had such basic needs. Outside of food and shelter, I had to tell myself, Amanda, you have to hang in there. Go through what you need to go through. So take the beatings. They're gonna come. So mentally prepare yourself for the beatings.
Oh, no.
Mentally prepare yourself for the sexual abuse. Mentally prepare yourself for the mental breakdowns. The amounting to nothing. Those kind of conversations. Your mother is having a fantastic time with men in Joburg and doesn't want you. Your father didn't want you. You name it. So I figured I can't do anything about those things. So I'm just going to have to wait until I'm older.
Old. So that was your dream as a girl? To be older?
To just be older. And I knew that when I was older, because older people around me were doing what they wanted to do.
Yeah, so you could do what you wanted to do.
Exactly. So when I'm older, it means I'll have the power to do what I want to do.
I'm amazed because your dream as a child was to be older.
Yeah.
When did the
very basic
dream, but man.
But just before you asked me the question, so when I sat under the tree, that tree was my escape. It was the friend I didn't have. It was the mom I didn't have. It was the sister I didn't have. I had a sister, but I didn't have a sister to talk to about those things. And I mean, years later, I realized we were both suffering the same things, but independently, which is probably one of the saddest things.
Yeah.
But so when I sat under the tree, I just kept, first of all, time would just pass because I would pick these little seeds. So it was a great time passing activity. Yeah. But also it just always felt like, I was connected to God when I was under the tree because it was just me and the tree and the
nothing
seeds
else mattered.
Nothing else.
Yeah.
As a result, I mean, I have a deep and spiritual connection to nature. I don't just grow my own vegetables just for sustenance. It's my connection with God.
Sure.
It's something that I cannot explain to people, but between growing my own vegetables back then, be it my agricultural plot at school or working the garden at home, and just sitting under the tree, and God, there's just this, and we are intertwined in a way. So under that tree, I never imagined the life that I have. But the one thing I can tell you is that it doesn't feel uncomfortable. It feels like this is the life God called me for.
Yes, ma'am.
Because I worked for it, honey.
Yes, ma'am. You've got no imposter syndrome lurking in. You are happy and you are comfortable.
I am 100% comfortable in my skin because, you know, I don't have to measure myself against anyone.
Yeah.
I'm my own benchmark.
Yeah.
And what I've been able to achieve with my life is nothing short of a miracle. And again, I'm saying, you know, God speaks through me. He is in me and guides me, you know, and it doesn't mean I don't make mistakes.
Yeah.
I do. But you know what? I'm that person. I can mess up so big right now. But in that very next breath, I'm like, all right, so, let's get together. Let's go. About that other thing. Because people like, you know, we like to only look at ourselves as just one thing.
I like how you keep explaining that you can't just look. Yeah, we are whole. Yeah. We are whole, and your story is whole, and we can't just focus on the negative. I want to talk about your hair, and I know I asked
or
you.
lack thereof.
Yeah, exactly. And you did say the next time you see me, it's going to be short. I asked you. I said, "Is there a reason you keep your hair short?" And you said, not really. Yeah. And I was hoping that it would give you time to think about it. Yeah. So I'm asking you again: is there a reason that you keep your hair the way you keep it?
Sweetie, it's not that deep.
It's not that deep. Still not that deep.
Nope. It will never be that deep.
Is it?
I just don't like long hair.
You just love it the way it is.
Yeah. I actually, you know what? I could come up with all sorts of like revolutionary reasons. No. I've always kept my hair short.
Okay.
And it's just, long hair has never been my thing.
Yeah.
And in my entire life, I've put in a weave once. I think it was twice in like the same time frame. Yeah. I had a hair salon. Okay. 2006, I had a hair salon.
Oh, wow.
And
yeah. You said.
So one of the guys that worked there said to me, Amanda, we're going to have a lunch. Can
it just makes sense. Yeah.
Like, can we just
do
show
something
people that I was reluctantly, I said, fine. The very next day I was back and I said, take it off. Okay.
Was it itchy, heavy, or just
no.
I don't need to look like this? Okay.
Everything was just wrong. Okay. Everything was just wrong. The hair was touching my neck. The thing was hot. And I was just like, I can't. So, and I grew my hair a bit when I got married. Yeah. That was an 8-month exercise. Grew my hair just so that the tiara could... No, but I was quite happy to get married with my short hair. I didn't care for a tiara and stuff. But then it's one of those things you kind of like, okay, let me just
it's just once off. Yeah.
And but outside of that, I promise you, I have no story about my hair.
We've spoken about all the sad stuff. What is life and... Also taking into consideration that life's not perfect.
Yes.
But on the other side, what does life look like? Dancing in your home. Shoe collection. Yes. You love your bags. Yes. How does life...
I love all the fine things in life. You love all
the nice things in life. Yes.
I definitely like the soft life.
Okay. It's better this side.
Yeah. You know... I also again want to challenge this notion of there's no perfect life. Because that is a matter of perspective. I have a perfect life.
Okay.
But my perfect is not your perfect. Right? Again, I said to you that we like to look at ourselves as just one thing. So the perspective that says life is not perfect, that's a perspective that's only looking at one aspect of life.
Ma'am.
Yeah? So my life is perfect. Do I have days that are bad? Yes. Do I have days where I disappoint myself? Yes.
Sure.
Do I have days where I want to punch a wall? Yes. Do I annoy people? Yes. Do I have wishes? Yeah. But you know what? I do often also just tend to focus on the things that I've achieved, what I continue to achieve. I'm healthy.
Yeah.
I've got happy children.
Yeah.
I've been in my children's life since they were born. I've got family. I've got a great home. I've got all my limbs. I've got my brains. I've got my ability to think. I've got my ability to connect people. I've got my ability to change people's lives.
Yeah.
what's not perfect about that life?
You just challenged us.
Right?
You just challenged us.
So I think we constantly bury ourselves in this negativity. And I guess in a way, how things start, and it's always about someone's perspective. We must find our own perspective.
Yeah.
I don't fly with the notion of, when you say your life is perfect, it can't be perfect. Because again, this is just one perspective.
Yeah.
It's just one way of looking at your life. My life is perfect with all of the negatives in my life.
Yeah.
Because I can't just only take one thing. I gotta take it all.
Take it all, yeah.
So but someone's perfect is not, and again, it's about the word itself, right? And what the expectation of that word is.
Yes, what does it mean to you? Yeah.
So I look at my life and I'm like, my life is perfect because this is the life God ordained for me.
Yeah.
This is the life God prepared me for. And this is the life I've earned. There is nothing that is not perfect about that, you know? And I take what I need to learn. I take those lessons. So I'm never going to stand on any podium and say, oh, life is so hard. You know, life is not perfect. And if I've said that, maybe it's a long time ago and I wasn't any wiser.
You weren't woke.
Now I know better.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's about what is your version of perfect.
Yeah.
And the minute you start, the minute you say, oh, life is not perfect, you are already giving yourself excuse not to try harder. You're already giving yourself excuse not to choose better.
Sure.
You're already giving yourself excuse not to believe. Because then, you know, if things go wrong, I did say life is not perfect.
Yeah, there's room for that.
So I think that the notion I'm challenging is probably the word itself, perfect, and what people associate with it.
How do we define it?
Because hardship, positivity, negativity, it is inevitable. It's part of our lives. My idea of perfect is sleeping great at night.
Yes.
It's knowing that whatever decisions I've made, I can stand by.
I'm happy with that. Cicely Tyson speaks on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I my level of perfect is, I've got children who know without a shadow of doubt that I love them. Without a shadow of doubt, they know I am home.
Sure.
When the world turns against them, when they mess up in the world, when whatever happens, the only person they should always remember is home, is mother. Whether I'm here or long gone, the things that I've injected into them are the things that are going to remind them of that.
Yeah.
And I'm a big believer that, you know, children, God gifts us the children to look after so that we can release them into the world. So it is my responsibility to make sure that I breathe God into them. And I say I breathe God into them. It's not read the Bible, go to church. No, it's self-love, it's belief, it's faith.
How you live your life does more preaching than anything.
And our children learn more from us by observing rather than by what we say. So we must make sure that our words are congruent. They are in alignment with our actions. Because someday they're going to call us upon it. They're going to be like, they're going to call us out. They're like, but what you're saying and what
does
you do,
not match.
you know?
Yeah.
Am I a perfect parent? Yeah, I think so. Damn, yeah.
I think one thing we're getting from you is that you are confident and you are happy with who you are. I'm going to wrap up with a few fun questions and then we're going to be done. Because I know you and I can talk forever. What's your favorite book and why? One sentence.
Care of the Soul, Thomas More.
Why?
Because it's an incredibly difficult book to read, but it makes you search your soul. Okay. And it reminds you how to embrace yourself.
Okay, love that. Who inspires you greatly?
Besides me.
I was about to say, don't say you. Give yourself roses, girl. One sentence. Who inspires you greatly?
I'm inspired by my children.
Wow.
Incredibly inspired by my children.
Okay.
And I know you said one sentence. You can't ask me one sentence. I am inspired by my children because it is through them that I get to relive my childhood.
Okay.
But it's also through them that I get to see my future.
Sure.
So it's inspiration like no other.
I love that. Would you rather be at the beach or by the bush?
Beach.
Really? Oh, yeah, because you want to wear shorts. Of course.
Yeah.
You want to show off your legs. Okay.
No, I just want to lie there and drink champagne.
Okay. That makes sense.
And watch the ocean, which is absolutely endless and God's wonder.
How's your just one word to describe your relationship with your husband?
Fun.
Fun. You have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
In life, Jay, you just have a lot of fun.
And my husband is a lot of fun.
Really?
Yeah, he's so funny.
The way you narrate him, it's as if he's a shy guy.
He's very reserved.
Okay, but he's fun.
But
when we are
me and him, even his family, they're like,
who's this?
He cracked a joke. I'm like, my husband is the funniest human being I know.
I guess you bring that out of him.
Yeah.
Okay, and last question. If there was a billboard, dead or alive, about Amanda Dambuza, what would it say besides baked in pain? Just one line on a billboard.
It would say legacy.
Legacy.
Yeah. Legacy, not just in my children and what I impart onto them, but the fact that I really only ever want to leave people better than I found them.
Sure.
So I just, and I think that's just God working through me.
Yeah.
And and I guess I can wrap up on this point by saying, earlier you said, do I think God chose me specifically? I believe that I was chosen by God, but not in angelic form, no, but in soldier form.
Sure.
Because God needs people on this earth to do His work. And I feel like I'm one of
the soldiers. Yeah.
So legacy for me is about how did I change somebody else's life in whatever shape or form.
Yeah.
Be it create a job, be it support their business, be it give them words of encouragement, be it tell my story so that they also see themselves in it so that they can rise above their own.
Well, to end off things, I can say that your legacy has been, I felt your legacy in my life. We met once prior to this and I sat in your office, I think, for 2 hours, and I told you things I wasn't supposed to tell you. I even said to him, like, why am I telling you this? Because it was such a safe space. Yes. And then I took your book, and as much as I can't relate to what you went through, but you writing that book, I could relate it to what I was going through.
Yes.
And it gave me that hug and that kick, and it said, Mpoomy, keep going. And I mean, I told you about losing my work, and I wasn't sure where to from here, but after that, I picked up the mic again, and here we are. Here we are. And I just want to say I'm grateful for you, grateful to have you on my podcast and to have you share your story. And more than anything, we're grateful that you chose hope and you chose to live, and that you are doing really hard. You're living hard.
Thank you so much for having me. I was really looking forward to this, and from the moment I met you, I knew you're incredibly special. I don't make time for a lot of people, but no, but I was going to make time for this with great pleasure. And the future is bright. Why not? We must seize it, because someday we'll be gone.
Yeah.
So what will be our legacy?
Absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Wisdom and Wellness with Mpoomy Ledwaba. Do check out the podcast. We've got a video on YouTube, and you can check it on Apple, Spotify, and whichever platform you use.